So those factors, the demand you see as China becomes more urban, that's probably going to be the driving factor going forward, much more than even a few more interest rate increases, for example.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and we take a longer range view. We're not copper traders, and so the near-term movements are not things that we give a lot of weight to. But when you just look at the development of the Chinese economy and also their continued need to invest in infrastructure because of the disparity between the standards of living from the coast to the interior, we are very confident about the long-term future from China's standpoint in terms of providing demand for copper.
What kind of growth are we seeing in demand from China at the moment for copper? Sort of running basis?
Well, you look at their basic industrial production growth and GNP growth, and you're still seeing growth. It varies month to month, and buying patterns affect it, but you're still seeing growth that goes from just below 10% to just over 10%.
So would you see that continuing at a similar clip going forward?
Let's see. I want to make sure that when you ask questions like that, you understand that we don't focus on near-term situations. We look at the long-term deal. So I can see scenarios of where that would increase. I can see scenarios of where it would decrease, and we prepare our business for those different scenarios. But we literally don't put a lot of effort in our company to focusing on near-term market movements.
Okay. What about the global economy more generally? I mean, what's your outlook?
You need to look at it, by area. The U.S. has had his economy is recovering. It's not a marked or steep recovery, but the business community in the U.S. is more optimistic than it was a year ago, and there are segments that are still lagging, and those segments are important for the copper business, the construction business, both for commercial real estate and residential real estate, continue to have significant oversupply situations, but there are other segments of the U.S. economy that are growing. In Europe, it's a similar story, particularly in Northern Europe. You see recovery despite the sovereign debt concerns that are there. And Japan was recovering, but now that has been disrupted by the tragedy of the earthquake and the tsunami. But overall, global growth is there with still carryover effects from the downturn. It's remarkable that we have copper prices at this level in the face of such a weak economy in the developed world.
You talked about the sort of incipient recovery in Europe. I mean, there's the bets are on that the ECB has been very clear that it's likely to raise its interest rates this week. Do you think that might sort of choke off some demand in Europe? Is it too early there, do you think, to raise interest rates given the state of the recovery and the sovereign debt crisis which you alluded to?
I'll just come back and say I'm not a good source for questions like that. I mean, we're focused on long-term investments in this industry. We work with our customers for their requirements for copper in the near term, and we're very optimistic long-term about the world's needs for copper and about this industry. And since we're not involved in trading activities and so forth, we're not focused on these near-term economic moves.
Do you feel like China has over-imported metal and right now they're drawing down inventories? What kind of talk do you hear from that side of the market?
You guys keep coming back to these things that we're not involved in that activity. So I'm just not the right kind of guy to ask for it. You need to ask traders and so forth about these near-term factors.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are you back to full capacity more or less now?
No, we're working towards that. We have restarted projects that we deferred. We had scaled back high-cost production, and we are we're moving to restore ourselves to full capacity. And at the same time, we're aggressively looking to invest in larger projects. So we're looking for opportunities within our set of assets to spend capital and grow production longer range, and that's really the strategic focus of our company.
Right.
But where do you stand with potential mergers and acquisitions now? Do you see any attractively priced assets in the industry?
Well, we are focused on our internal investments. We're positioned so that if an opportunity came to us to acquire assets, we're positioned to do that. But it's difficult for assets that we might acquire to compete with the projects that we have internally to invest in. And so our focus is on internal investment opportunities.
Yesterday when we spoke to Xstrata, they said that there are some companies, junior companies at a very advanced stage of exploration where they're beginning to invest in early feasibility studies that might be quite attractive. Did you see similar opportunities?
We have a real problem with what junior companies are developing in terms of just this enormous resource base that we have for our internal investments. And when you acquire, even if it's in the early stage of investments, typically a junior company has an established market value for their company. To acquire it, you have to pay a premium for it. So a degree of the values associated with those assets go to the shareholders of the junior company. When we have internal projects and we have enormous resources internally to invest in, to the extent that we're successful in establishing reserves on that project and on those prospects, they're really brownfield projects of expanding our existing mines. The values that we create accrue totally to our own shareholders. So that's when I say it makes it difficult to find acquisition opportunities that work for us.
Right. And just in February, you said that in terms of the cash that the company holds right now, that you would be seeking to sort of pay investors, cut debt, and boost capex. Where are the priorities for you right now in terms of how you? The
priority is clearly on capital investment. Mm-hmm. We're so optimistic about our business that to the extent we can, we're investing in capital projects. Now, to get a project to the point of where you can spend significant amounts of money on it, you have to get the delineation drilling done. You have to complete feasibility studies and get permits. Sometimes you have to take steps to acquire land rights or power and water, and all of that takes time. So in the meantime, we have such a high level of current production levels, and the prices are at such a level, and our costs are low on a global basis, that we're earning excess cash, and that's what gives us the opportunity to return cash to shareholders as we're growing our business.
Right. And with that level of optimism, I mean, for example, we've heard that maybe you would be interested in buying London's stake in the Tenke project. Is that something you're looking at?
You never comment on M&A activity.
Okay.
As a matter of policy.
Right.
What are the most promising expansion projects that you
It's really across a broad number of properties. The most significant near-term project we have is a doubling or tripling of our output at our Cerro Verde mine in Peru. And we're completing a feasibility study on that, which we will complete by mid-year this year, and then we'll be into permitting and then expanding. It's got the footprint and the resources that will allow us to do that. We're also aggressively looking at expanding output in the United States. Excuse me. In the not too distant past, those mines were considered to be low quality, short-lived mines. But in the context of a world today that requires copper, we're finding resources at depth and adjacent to our existing production that gives us the chance of making investment in in concentrating mills that would allow us to significantly increase production from the United States. We have an opportunity here in Chile at our El Abra mine where we're completing a replacement project to process sulfide ore in a project we call Sulfilix. But beyond that, we're seeing additional sulfide resources that gives us the chance of looking at a milling investment here that would add to production. There's a huge opportunity we have in Africa at our Tiki Fungarumi mine, where we're now operating our initial development and expanding it. There's an indication of a very significant resource base there that would potentially allow us to develop that as a world-class mine, and we're working aggressively with that goal in mind. We continue to have exploration activities here in Chile and Indonesia, where we operate the fabulous Grasberg mine, and in the U.S. and other places around the world. So we've got a big resource base from our past exploration activities, and we're expanding that dramatically. We've added 40 billion pounds of proved and probable copper reserves to our property since we did the Phelps Dodge deal 4 years ago.
Right. What will those projects mean to your production profile going forward?
In broad terms, we see the ability, in the near term, we're working on projects that would add 500 million pounds of copper. That's from just the restart activities that were deferred and projects that were deferred in 2008. Over the next several years, we can see sales growing from 1.5 billion to 2 billion pounds a year. That's going to require upwards to $10 billion of capital to do, but that's what we're focused on doing.
When would the 5 billion pounds of copper in restarts, when would that, what's the scheduling for that?
It's 500 million. 500 million pounds of copper, and that's will be ramped up in the next couple of years. I mean, it's already coming in play, but we would reach that total annual production in about the next couple of years.
I was interested that you mentioned about the potential increase at the Cerro Verde mine in Peru. Obviously, there's a certain amount of short-term, maybe political risk there, or I just wonder what your thoughts were on that. I mean, if, for example, Mr. Humala does make it through to the ultimate position of president, would that impede your investments in Peru?
We're confident that whatever government emerges from the elections will see the continuation of the benefits mining has made to the economy of Peru. And it's been very significant. It's created an environment that fosters investment, and certainly you look at the economic statistics for the country, they have had marked improvement. And so regardless of how the election turns out, we're confident that the government of Peru will see the benefits of mining and what it means to the country.